Hey guys, JSP on JSP Talk Sports here, and we're talking football round 24 going on this weekend, Saturday 31st and Sunday 1st February. Uh, Getting right into it, starting in the EPL, we have 10th place Brighton versus 12th place Everton, and Brighton coming off that 2-1 loss to Fulham. Everton coming off the 1-1 draw with Leeds. Everton won the previous two versus Brighton, last two matches versus Brighton. We know Brighton with Welbeck in some good form with 8 goals. I'm going to predict for this one, Brighton versus Everton, a draw. So let's see how that one goes. Moving on, we have Leeds in 16th versus first place Arsenal. Leeds coming off a 1-1 draw with Everton. Arsenal coming off the 3-2 win over Kairat Almaty in Champions League after the 3-2 loss against Man U. We know Leeds been firing with Clive lowest 11 on 9 goals. I'm going to predict a draw for this one. Leads to hold Arsenal to a draw. So Arsenal, yeah, it's crunch time here. Let's see. And then Wolves in 20th versus Bournemouth in 13th. Wolves only on 8 points in 20th, by the way. And Bournemouth, they in 13th, they're 6 points off 6th. So tight there from 13 straight up to 6. Wolves coming off the 2-0 loss to City, and Bournemouth coming off the 3-2 last effort win over Liverpool. And they won the previous two versus Wolves. So I'm going to go with a Bournemouth win in this one. Then we have 5th place Chelsea versus 18th place West Ham. West Ham 5 points off 17th, but they're on a 3-game winning streak. They're coming off a 3-1 win over Sunderland, and Chelsea coming off the 3-2 win over Napoli in the Champions League. I have to go with a Chelsea win in this one. So Alex, let's see if your boys could hold on to that 5th place spot there. Then moving on, we have Liverpool in 6th, dropped to 6th from 4th, versus Newcastle in 9th. Liverpool coming off the big 6-0 win over Karabakh in Champions League. And Newcastle coming off a 1-1 draw with PSG. Not too bad for them. Last 3 matches, these teams play Newcastle and Liverpool, no draws. So I expect a win. I'm expecting a Liverpool win. Never walk alone. Let's see. Continuing Saturday in La Liga, we have Elche in 11 versus Barca, top of the table by 1 point though. Elche coming off a 3-2 loss to Levante, and Barca coming off a 4-1 win over FC Copenhagen in Champions League. Can't see anything other than a Barca win for this one, so I'm going to go to a Barca win. Hoping for upset, if there's an upset and my Spanish team Real can get the job done, well, we go ahead. So moving on to the Sunday matches. EPL, Villa in 3rd versus Brentford in 8th. Villa coming off a 3-2 win over Salzburg in Europa, right? And Brentford coming off a 2-0 loss to Forest. This is basically Villa with Watkins 8 goals versus Thiago, Brentford with 16 goals. Shootout here. I'm going to go to a Villa win though. Villa, my pick if Liverpool can't win the league to get it done. So Villa win. Man U in 4th, surprising, versus Fulham in 7th. Man U coming off a big 3-2 win over Arsenal. We all know they have no European football, so they had a whole week to rest. Against Fulham coming off the 2-1 win over Brighton. And Breno with 8 goals versus Wilson with 8 goals. I'm going to go with a Man U win based on current form. Hoping Fulham can cause an upset. Forest in 17th versus Palace in 15th. So Forest coming off the 4-0 win over Ferencváros in Europa. And Palace coming off a 3-1 loss to Chelsea. So Palace on a slide here in 15th. The Forest haven't lost to Palace in the last 11 games, by the way. Forest have Gibbs White on 5 goals, and Palace have Mateta on 8. So I'm going to go with a draw in this one. Palace versus Forest, a draw. So let's see there. Spurs in 14th versus City in 2nd. Spurs coming off a 2-0 win over Frankfurt in Champions League and doing well in Champions League. Man City, coming off a 2-0 over Galatasaray in Champions League. We all know Haaland on 20. Spurs have Richarlison on 7. In the last 6 matches, there have been no draws in this match, so going to go with a City win, hoping Spurs can cause an upset here. Moving on the Sunday in La Liga, we have Real Madrid in second place, 1 point off top versus Real Vallecano. And Real coming off a 4-2 loss to Benfica in Champions League. Can Real bounce back? Real Vallecano coming off a 3-1 loss to Osasuna. So they and all will be looking to try and bounce back in this one. Real has to win. A Real win in this one. Real Madrid. Sunday in Serie A, Parma in 15th versus Juve in 5th. Juve 1 point off 3rd. Parma with a 4-0 loss to Atalanta, right? Last match out. And Juve with a 0-0 with Monaco in Champions League. Yildiz with 8 goals here. Going to go with a Juve win. And then rounding off this weekend, well, we have the Monday in EPL. We have Sunderland in 11th versus Burnley in 19th. Sunderland coming off a 3-1 loss to West Ham, surprisingly. And Burnley with a 2-2 with Spurs. Burnley with Anthony on 5. Sunderland with Brobbey on 5 goals as well. And picking Sunderland for the win here. Sunderland for the win on the Monday Night Football. So let me know what you think about this weekend's matchups. And don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment. GSP on GSP Talk Sports, talking football.